The Austin meeting for September. My name is Sam Shorter. I'll be your president here for just a few more minutes. We have an action-packed program where we'll install our officers and also hear from the Texas Water Development Board. Just want to let everyone know I'm very grateful for this role. It's been a kind of anticlimactic year, return from COVID and pandemic to in-person meetings late last spring. And we have a great 2022-2023 schedule for all you to get involved in both community service events and professional education. So with that, I will pass to Mr. Tyler Doobie. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Doobie, and I'm your outgoing Vice President of Programs. We have a very full plate today with installing new branch officers for 2022 and 2023, and an exciting program to kick off our fall luncheon series. Gluten-free, raise your hand. Okay. So, true story, I was thinking all summer about what we should do to kick off our fall luncheon series and what our topic should be when we come back in September. Most of that thinking was done indoors because we had some record heat, record lack of rain, and escalating drought conditions statewide. Wildfires, burn bans, lake levels were all over the news. And I traveled to the valley for a work trip and witnessed firsthand police escorts for the Forest Service firefighting rigs battling blazes on the roadside. So I reached out to the Texas Water Development Board, thinking they could help shed some light on all this heat and dwindling water supplies and what it means to us in Central Texas and how we're faring relative to the rest of the state. So, kid you not, the day I booked these presenters, it finally rained. Perfect timing. So that's what we have in store for today, but I want to get on to our announcements. So if you have an announcement, please come up here and let's hear from our group. First up is Paul Hunt.
Excuse me, I have a mouthful of green beans. First announcement, get the year kicked off right. We are starting our advertising for Engineer of the Year early this year. The Garabed A. Haratunian Engineer of the Year. You just heard from our current Engineer of the Year from the past year, Tyler. So congratulations again, Tyler. I can't even see where you went. There you are. Good job, Tyler. Applications are not due until January 9th. So you have a little bit of time. Please start thinking about it. The holidays are going to come up and start taking over your lives. So it's less time than you think, but we wanted to get a jump start. So please start thinking about folks in your office that you work with who may be good candidates. We would love to have a good, strong showing here, handful of candidates to vote on. Thank you. Oh. EWRI.
I will be subbing in. I'm subbing in for EWRI. I just want to announce a couple of things that EWRI is planning a Shoal Creek cleanup for October. We've adopted this creek through Keep Austin Beautiful and are doing this jointly with YMF as our first volunteer event of the year. So look to the website for more info. These QR codes, by the way, help you sign up for stuff or follow the websites, FYI. The next monthly meeting is on October 10th. It's a hybrid meeting, so look to the website for details. We will also be attending the National EWRI Leadership and Council Weekend to see how other EWRI branches are operating and are excited to see what else we can incorporate into our Austin branch. We also have a call for nominations to bring some new folks into the fold. Open positions, there's 5: community outreach, social, scholarship, workshop, and communications. So that's it for EWRI. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Chavez, and I'm glad to be back in my role as chair for the Community Outreach Committee. We had a great year last year, and we're hoping to have another great year this year. Right now, we do have an event scheduled with Mobile Loaves and Fishes for the morning of Saturday, October 22nd. We volunteered with them last time of this year in early January. And in previous years past, and we've always had a great time partnering with them. Some of the tasks that we'll be helping them out with are some light landscaping and just helping out on their community. If you'd like to attend, or if you'd like more information, check out our event page in Eventbrite, or send me an email and I'll be sure to respond. But thank you all very much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kaylin Hudson. I am the YMF director, and YMF is our younger member forum. So if you're an ASCE member and you're 35 and under, you are automatically enrolled in our group. So we hope to see you at some of our events. We had our first meeting of the year last night and talked a lot about our events that we plan on doing this year. So we're super excited, and we have a couple committee positions and chairs open. If y'all are interested in getting involved, or if there's some younger engineers at your company that you think should be involved, check us out on social media. Did want to give a big shout out if you guys came to some of the meetings in the spring. We were really pushing our CRIMAC event. So we were hosting the Central Region Younger Member Council of ASCE National. And so we were very excited to host that, and wanted to thank our sponsors. We had Gessner and the Austin branch for a huge sponsor for us. So thank you to you guys. And then also MWM and K-Freeze and Freeze and Nichols. So thank you everyone for helping us put that event on. And as I said, many events coming up. Feel free to come talk to me after. I did want to, if you are in the YMF group for this year, if y'all want to stand up, our board members, come talk to me, come talk to any of them after the meeting if you guys are interested in getting involved, and we'll hope to see you there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Bryant, and I am the Government Affairs Chair. And this year for the Austin branch, we're trying to push to have a committee, and I'll get to that in just a second. But that's kind of ask number one, is if anybody is interested in helping me out and kind of helping out advocating for ASCE with local governments, please reach out to me. I have my email there. Other kind of items that we do with government relations, we are really just kind of bridging the gap between policymakers and engineers, which is definitely needed. This happens on the national level. So there's a fly-in where engineers go to Washington every year. That's in the summer. The one that's a little more accessible is on the state level. There will be the legislative drive-in where we drive to the Capitol. So very convenient for everybody living here. And we meet with state leaders, state elected officials to kind of go over ASCE's goals and policies and things like that. So if that's something you're interested in, that'll be in February of 2023. So more to come as we kind of get to that. And the final thing is we are, like I said, we're forming an actual committee. So if you are interested in kind of any of this, please come see me. And the goal is to probably not until next summer, so that we don't kind of conflict with the state drive-in, is to have some kind of similar drive-in event on the local level for local government. So please come see me if any of that sounds interesting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Griselda. Just here to remind you guys that we're back on social media. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and if y'all didn't know, we are on YouTube. If you missed a meeting or today's meeting, if you didn't get a chance to join us, please feel free to check us out and catch up on whatever y'all missed. Thank you.
So I'm subbing in for Scott Wallace with SEI. He asked me to deliver this announcement. The next SEI meeting will be held in November, so stay tuned to the website and newsletter for details about that. Really, the big news is that the Structural Engineering Talks, or SET, is coming back spring 2023. I know we said that last year and it didn't happen, but it's happening this year. So it's a lot of fun. This is like TED Talks meets Alamo Draft House. It is, and they try to be different. The goal is to have 4 presentations that each depart from a normal in the weeds technical presentation, but are still related to the structural profession. It's dinner and drinks at Alamo, and it's a lot of fun. Who here has done the engineering blitz? Show of hands. Is it a lot of fun? Thumbs up. Another thumbs up and hook 'em. Great. Y'all need to do this. This is a lot of fun. We're going to do it end of November, beginning of December. And there's a QR code to sign up for the engineering blitz. This is where we get in front of 6th graders and try to inspire them to become a civil engineer. Need about 40 people to make this happen. So you need to see your cell phones out, scan the code, sign up, go to our website, find the link. We're going to be advertising this at all of our meetings and putting out plenty of email spam to that effect. So please help us out. Next up, we have Muhammad Musa with DCS to deliver our sponsorship presentation.
It's not a real big presentation. It's just my thought process, how we approach consulting and how we approach community and how we approach the bond between the students and the community and in solving the infrastructure problem. To introduce DCS, we are governed by the main principle that whatever we do, we put engineering into it. We are a full services civil engineering firm. That means that we have traffic, transportation, drainage, and water and wastewater treatment facilities. This is just a snapshot of the services we provide in transportation and in infrastructure. My idea, our approach is that there are so many issues that we need to solve as a nation. And we are all trying to solve it. Individually, we cannot do that. It's a bigger problem. State, counties, cities, consultants, all of us are in the same boat to solve the problem of the community. How do we do that? One team, one consulting firm cannot do that. How we will do it is to work together. Let's join hands and work together with the main principle of trust, quality, teamwork, service, and integrity. All my life as an engineer and professor at the university, I have worked with so many of you to solve these problems. So it's not an individual problem. We are competitors at times, but we have to work together. The city cannot solve it by itself. The county cannot solve it by itself. The state cannot solve it by itself. We have to work together, and we have a share and a responsibility to solve these problems. That's all I needed to say. Thank you very much.
All right. As my last official duty, I get to introduce our ASCE dignitary for the officer installation ceremony. The incoming officers would make their way up. Larry Goldberg is with us today. He's the Region 6 governor for ASCE. He's the former Texas section president. He's a fellow in ASCE. And lower on the list, he's an Aggie. And so higher on the list for some. So I kid. I respect all Aggies. And so don't want to take up any more of our time, but I did want to introduce Larry for the officer introduction ceremony. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate the invite and being able to be here with everyone today. Just a couple quick little updates on some things that are going on with the society. How many of y'all were at the CECon last week? Few folks? Well, great. We had a great turnout. It was good to be back in person again. We, changed the location up to Frisco. We had over 500 or 550 with sponsors, exhibitors. So it was a great conference. I encourage everybody to put it on your calendar for next year. It'll be back in San Marcos. So keep your eyes open for that. A couple things going on at national or global, if y'all may be aware or not aware of, but they have a new promotion coming out, or movie or video game. It depends on how you look at it, with goggles and some other stuff. Future World Vision, the Mega City 2070. So keep your eyes open for that. It's a pretty cool presentation that they're putting together. And it's just the future vision. What is the world going to look like, especially the younger folks? I may not be around to see 2070, but some of y'all may be. So keep your eyes open for that. It's really neat. There's a few changes going on with lifetime membership. Once you became a lifetime member, you used to be able to get your membership for free, but now they're going to start potentially charging a small amount for it. So some of y'all are still too young for that. Some of y'all may be a little bit more looking towards that. So just keep your eyes open on some of the announcements from Global. Always consider ASCE as one of your technical resources on the website, online training, certificates, codes, standards, publications. There's a lot of information that's very helpful and useful out there that offer benefits to our membership. And then get connected. Be connected with ASCE. They have the Collaborate Institutes, technical groups. A lot of y'all are part of. It's great to see all that involvement. I started my career in ASCE out of college and been involved with ASCE, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences that I could ever say throughout my career. And then the report card, y'all were talking about the legislative driving that's coming up. That's awesome. We always look forward to that every year. Along with, I've been working on and watching the ASCE report card for 25 or 30 years. It's taken that long to actually get people to start noticing it, and us starting to get funding from it. It's unfortunate it's taken that long, but the report card has finally gained ground from what its intent was. So just a few little updates there. So now it's my honor and privilege to be able to install the new officers. I'm just going to read through the list and then we'll go through the ceremony. So your incoming president is going to be Paul Hahn. President-elect Tyler Newby. Vice President of Programs, Kate Lauer. I have a secretary, Griselda Quintero. If I butcher your name, I apologize up front. Treasurer, Augustine, my man. He was from Houston, so I've known him for a long time. Treasurer, Lily Ong. Lily not here? Not here, okay. Communications Director, Laura Frello. Section Director, Austin Mizzarelli. Austin. Younger Member Director, Kaylin Hudson. And last but not least, past President, Sam Shorter. It's always a good feeling, but we don't ever let him get away. So Texas Section's next and Governor's next, and then who knows where from there. So. So election to a position of leadership in a volunteer organization is an honor and unique responsibility. Your fellow members, in electing each of you to your respective offices, have given you their trust. They have expressed confidence that you will be able to discharge the various duties with effectiveness and distinction. As officers of the Austin branch of the American Society of Civil Engineers, you will represent the membership to the citizens of the geographical area. As a civil engineer, you have dedicated your professional and technical knowledge to the advancement and betterment of the society. You have pledged to do your best to participate at the highest ethical standards of professional engineering conduct and to serve the public above all other considerations. And that includes you, Augustine. Do you pledge to uphold the governing documents of the American Society of Civil Engineers and those of the Austin branch? And do you, in the presence of your fellow members, pledge yourself faithfully to discharge the duties of the office to which you have been elected to the best of your ability? If so, please answer, I will. I will. And now, will all the members of the American Society of Civil Engineers please stand? That's y'all. You have heard the pledge of your officers elect. Unless they have your wholehearted support, they will not be able to fulfill their pledge so faithfully given. Do you therefore promise to support your officers as they guide the Austin branch the upcoming year? Will you assist them whenever, and I mean whenever, you are called upon for help and understanding the various activities they plan? Will you encourage and advise them and refrain from unjust criticism of their plans and actions? If so, say, I will. Let these mutual pledges be your commitment that the American Society of Civil Engineers may be an increasingly greater force for the well-being of all citizens of the world whose lives are impacted by our civil engineering projects. Ladies and gentlemen in the office, thank you for your participation. Y'all may be seated. As the delegated representative of the president of the president and board of directors of American Society of Civil Engineers, I now declare each of you officially installed in the office of which you are elected. My congratulations and best wishes to each of you. Have a round of applause. Will the past president, the rest of y'all can sit down, but will the past president Shorter, will you please ensure the gravel is handed over to the President Hahn by the public symbolic act, the authority and responsibility of leadership is transferred to you and other new officers. All right, official.
Tyler, you ready to introduce our speakers? Okay, as I mentioned before, our featured presentation for today is from the Texas Water Development Board. I invited John Sutton and Nelun Fernando to come and talk to us about what they do at the board, some of the resources available to us online, and shed some light on our current drought, conservation, water supply, and related topics. John Sutton is a manager of water conservation with the Texas Water Development Board and has been there for 28 years. His duties include managing the agency's agricultural and municipal conservation programs covering agricultural conservation and irrigation water use surveys, coordinating reviews of water conservation plans, annual water conservation reports and water loss audits, and working with other agencies and professional groups relating to drought, water conservation, and related activities. Also presenting, Dr. Nelun Fernando is manager of the Water Availability Department in the Surface Water Division at the board. She's responsible for program oversight of technical assistance provided to the regional water planning process, the stewardship of the state's reservoir evaporation data program, and the provision of drought and water supply information through the board's drought dashboard. Dr. Fernando has expertise in developing actionable climate information for water resource applications and in drought diagnostics predictability. I'll turn it over to you guys. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here. Thank you, Tyler, for the invite. And very nice to hear of your work and such. So, as Tyler mentioned, he asked us to talk about the current drought, and then of course things changed up a bit. But we do have drought back again. So he asked me to include some information on what exactly happened when we had the flooding up north of the states. And so I'll go through how the drought evolved, that is the current drought, and touch on what happened in August, and then give you some resources where you can look at water levels in our reservoirs and get updated drought information and such. And then hand it over to my colleague, John Sutton, who will talk about water planning and the conservation strategies. The map that you see on the left is the drought monitor map that was released on the 13th of September. This map comes out every Thursday morning, and it provides an update on what the drought conditions are like across the state. It's done for the entire US, and every week there are a group of folks who get together to determine based on the consensus and then convergence of evidence, looking at stream flow, rainfall, drought indices over time, etc., to see, okay, where should we draw the boundaries for how dry it might be in terms of abnormally dry? You know, like, is there absolutely no drought on the horizon, or is areas under drought? So are they susceptible to drought and such like? So anywhere you see the yellows are the areas that are denoted as abnormally dry. And then they determine, again, based on the convergence of evidence, which regions should be classified as D1, which is the severe drought, D2, which is moderate, D3, which is extreme, that is the red that you see, and D4, which is the worst category of drought or exceptional. So wherever you see the gradation going to like the maroons, that's the worst drought category you can expect. So the drought monitor data go back to 2000 in terms of the map availability, but the actual data that go into developing that goes back to as far as the records are available. So the rainfall data and such go back to the late 1900s. The figure on the right of the screen shows you the time series of drought under those different categories for Texas. So the sorry, whatever this the map that you see on the left is a reflection of the last point on the time series. And I'm going to go into a little bit detail on the section that we've highlighted within the square to show how drought evolved from the beginning of the water year, so that would be from October of 2021 through to the present. At the beginning of October last year, the area under drought, or so abnormally dry, which is that yellow shaded area, to under other drought categories, which only extended at that point to the D1 category, was approximately 45% of the state. So most of the state was drought free. By the end of December, you might recall that we had a very warm December. It happened to be one of the warmest on record, actually. We see drought emerging in the Panhandle, and you see the extreme drought category has taken foot in that region. So the reds have emerged. It's about, I think it was about 44% of the state covered in some category of abnormally dry through D3 condition. And then going on to March of this year, we see an expansion of those regions of the state under extreme drought. And then by end of May, we see that exceptional drought, which is that D4 category, has taken a foothold in the state. Then marching on to June, July, and August, we see that the map gets worse and worse. And by August, we had almost 30% of the state in the exceptional drought category. And the regions of the state that were really in the grips of the bad drought were the central part of the state, so the South Central, Edwards Plateau, and also the Northeast, near the Metroplex and such. And then if you look at temperature records for April through July, we see that the lower third of the state pretty much recorded the warmest period on record. And this is going back to 128 years of data. So the areas, the counties that you see depicted in red, each of those had the warmest 4-month period on record. And the two maps, the map on the left shows you the maximum temperature, so the record for maximum temperature and average temperature is what you see on the right. So that was the temperature rather than the rainfall deficit was really what made this drought so bad in terms of its severity on water supply and such. I'm comparing here the stream flow at the beginning of August with what we saw back in 2011. How many of you remember 2011's drought? For most of us, that is the most, like the worst drought. It was the worst 1-year drought on record, but it's also in our recent memory. Right? We know the 1950s drought was the worst, or it is known as a drought of record for planning purposes for much of the state. But the 2010 to 2015 drought was really very intense in some portions of the state and has been found to be the record in some parts of the state. But then in that 2010 to 2015 drought period, 2011 had the honor of being the worst 1-year drought on record. So if we compare stream flow in 2011 to what we saw in 2022, we see that it's actually worse in some watersheds, as the map on the right shows you, because we see that at the beginning of August, there were watersheds in the lower Brazos, the Pecos, and in the Panhandle region, which had extreme hydrologic drought, which we did not see even in 2011 at this time. So the influence of temperature, the record temperature that we saw in those preceding months, did really take a toll on stream flow in the state. And things were looking so bad that the state's drought preparedness council started meeting once a week to determine what response options needed to be taken, because there were several communities that were running out of water. And these are mostly those that were reliant on groundwater rather than surface water. But I'm just highlighting this fact to show that things were really not in a good situation at that time. And then if you look at statewide reservoir conservation storage, the line in dark blue with the solid diamond, that shows you the trace for 2022. In August, you see that it was only about 2 to 3 percentage points higher than what we had seen in 2011, which is depicted in the red line. That was, again, cause for concern. And then fast forward to September 6th. The September 6th drought monitor map is what you see at the bottom of that map. You see a huge improvement in drought conditions because much of the state now no longer has those red and maroon shades. And some parts of the state are even drought-free. That's what you see in the whites. So what was it that occurred? In that 4-week period from August 9th to September 6th, we see that the drought monitor improved. There was like a 3 to 5 class improvement with all the rains that fell in the Metroplex region, along the coast, in South Texas, and also in the central part of the state. So that made a huge dent on the drought conditions that we were witnessing in the beginning of August. And that reduction in drought is due to the rains that we received around the 21st of August, we see reflected in reservoir conservation storage. This is the storage trace as at today, reflecting the storage through midnight of yesterday. And conservation storage is at 70.8%. And you see a nice bump in storage that we, from the middle of like the third week of August through the present. But what we need to remember is, even though we see that bump in storage and a nice departure from the being parallel to what we had seen in 2011, storage is still about 10 to 11 percentage points below what's considered to be the median for this time of year. So even though we have seen some improvement, it's still not in a comfortable place. So what was it that occurred? How was it that we had that intense rainfall in August, in the third week of August, when we were in such a bad drought? Events like that are referred to as weather whiplash events. And if you do a Google Scholar search for that term, you're going to find articles that speak to this. From California, looking at precipitation whiplash events, some works from the Woodwell Center in Utah, Jen Francis's work looking at the impact of warming in the Arctic, leading to more extreme swings such as these. So whiplash refers to a sudden shift in the weather regime. So it could be from drought to flood, or it can be anything from, say, warm conditions to very cold conditions. But it's mostly the wet to dry or dry to wet that these events are identified as. If we take a look at the rainfall anomaly for July, that's the map on your left. You see that most of the state is depicted in reds or browns. And anywhere you see reds, it is regions of the state that received 0% of normal rainfall or just less than 1% of normal. Only the Panhandle and the Middle Rio Grande had some greens showing above average rainfall. But then if we look at the rainfall anomalies for August, you see that a swath of South Texas and then the Northeast is covered in blues, which is 300 to 400% of normal. So really huge departures. And for the Metroplex region, August ended up being, like for the Dallas-Fort Worth region especially, August was the wettest August on record. Statewide, it has averaged out to be the 10th wettest August on record. So are these events unusual? I'm going to go into two such events in recent years to show you that we've seen this happen. And part of being in Texas and studying drought and flood is that you know that it always swings from one to the other. And a drought typically ends in a flood, although we can't really say that the current drought has ended. It had a temporary easing of intensity. So let's take a look at 2018 and 2021. In August of 2018, about 60% of the state had some category of drought. We had exceptional drought in the mid Rio Grande region as well. But some of you might remember that Central Texas was very dry. We had extreme drought during that time. And then if you look at October, most of the state has no drought at all. During that time period, again, we see that there was like a 4 to 5 category improvement in drought conditions. And a lot of that improvement occurred in some parts end of September, but a majority of it happened in middle October, like October 16th to the 17th. And I'm taking the example of Lake Travis to show you how much rain we received, resulting in a 20-foot increase in lake levels over a 24-hour period. And you know that Lake Travis is it's not the largest, but it's one of the largest reservoirs in the state. It has like 1.1 million acre feet of capacity. So to see that kind of rapid increase in storage means that we've had a deluge. And you remember very likely that that was when we had the first ever boil water notice in Austin because of all the silt that came down with the rains. And then let's take a look at the 2021 example. In March of 2021 too, we had quite a bit of the state, like the Panhandle, West Texas, South Texas having exceptional drought. And some of the Panhandle region, for example, Palmer County had been in exceptional drought since the previous September, the September of 2020. But then come June, we see a huge improvement in drought. So most of the state is drought-free except for West Texas. And again, if you look at the drought class changes for that time period, you see that South Texas and the Panhandle have 3 to 5 class improvements. So the take-home message here is that we can have these dramatic shifts over a short period of time. It's not always easy to forecast when such shifts will occur, but they're part and parcel of what we have to manage for as we manage water supplies in the state. To go on to some tools that you can use to track reservoir storage. This is a site that the Water Development Board provides. It's called Water Data for Texas. And if you just type www.waterdatafortexas.org, it's going to take you to this home page, which is the statewide reservoir storage page. It shows you the current storage for 119 monitored reservoirs in the state, but we also include Element Butte, which is in New Mexico. If you click on any one of those points, you're going to be able to pull up a storage plot for the current year. And here I've clicked on the dot for Lake Travis. And you're going to see this plot appear on your screen. But if you click on, so then over here you get, I think it's a current, historical, and statistics. I'm sorry, it's very small on the screen. But if you click on statistics, you're going to get the plot that shows you what it has been the recorded maximum and minimum storage levels and the median, and then what the past couple of years looks like. And since I think it was in July of this year, we added in 2011 because there was interest from the National Weather Service to see how did storage compare with what we had seen in 2011. You can also, if you scroll down on the main page, you're going to get a list of all the reservoirs, and you can go into each of them. There are hyperlinks that will take you to the instantaneous storage values, and then some statistics in text format on the past year. And then if you want the entire historical record, you can get that as well. And then you can get information on when that lake was last surveyed, so the bathymetric surveys, the area, elevation area capacity curves and such. There's a lot of information available. The other tool that I wanted to introduce to you all was the Drought dashboard, which is also available through Water Data for Texas. You just add a /drought, and that will take you to the drought monitor maps by county and by Huckett watershed. And you can, so the map, the screenshot I have here is just showing you the county, but you can get the data by the Huckett watershed as well. And you can get, if you click on any area of interest, you can see the time series plot for that particular region. Then we also have the monthly PRISM rainfall and temperature data at 4 kilometer by 4 kilometer resolution grid. And again, we have the maps available by county and by Huckett watershed. And the data that you see below is for whichever area of interest you're looking at, and you can download that data too. And there's also data that we can provide you if you cannot access something directly from the website. In addition to that, we provide drought index data we have the standardized specification index, the Palmer drought severity index, the evaporative demand drought index, or the EDDI, which is quite a new index, but it shows you a representation of the atmospheric thirst. So like it gives you an indicator of how likely is it to see in the short term drought is getting established in a particular region. Then there's a drought index known as quick dry, which is an index that captures landscape drought severity. So it's a good indicator for flash drought or droughts that come on very rapidly, almost like akin to a flash flood. And then the KBDI, which is the Keach-Byram Drought Index, which is an indicator of fire. And here too, we have the associated time series for the county of interest. And I'll wrap up with this quote from Tan Hill from 1947, which talks about rain to drought and where's the rain. So we welcome the first clear day after a rainy spell. Rainless days continue for a time, and we are pleased to have a long spell of such fine weather. It keeps on, and we are a little worried. A few days later more, and we are really in trouble. The first rainless day in a spell of fine weather contributes as much to the drought as the last. But no one knows how serious it will be until the last dry day has gone and the rains have come again. And that's why we have drought planning and conservation as strategies with which to deal with the uncertainties that drought brings to us. And with that, I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you. That quote really says a lot. Quick question. How many here have had some interaction with Texas Water Development Board? Oh, a lot of you. Okay. So as you know, our mission is to lead the state's efforts in ensuring secure water future for Texas and its citizens. And we do that through planning, state water plan. We do that through financial assistance, technical assistance. And it's also important to note that we're non-regulatory. So as Nelun said, the new drought record that we look at when we're looking at future planning is 2011. And our planning horizon is to 2070. And that kind of, well, you were talking about the future of city or whatever the game, 2070, okay? There's the vision. We have to look that far down in the future because a lot of infrastructure and what's going to take to meet future water needs is expensive and it's going to take time and planning. Reason behind state water planning, again, is to make sufficient water available at a reasonable cost to ensure public health, safety, welfare, and the future economic development while protecting the agricultural and natural resources of the state. So how do we plan? We take a look at what future population estimates are going to be, what our water demand is going to be. We take a look at existing water supplies. We identify surpluses and needs. Where are we going to have shortages? When are they going to happen? We evaluate and recommend water management strategies. We make policy recommendations. We adopt the state water plan, and we prioritize those future water projects. And so why do we plan? Okay, Texas population is estimated to about double, okay, by 2070. We already know what it's like here in the Austin area, and it's happening across the state. More and more people, population growth, people moving in. And so how are we going to meet that demand? This takes a look at the areas in the state where we see the darker colors have the higher percentages. The dark orange is over a 20%, over a 200% increase. Okay, second population during that planning horizon. Okay, at the same time, population's going up. This red line is our demand, okay, but our existing supply continues to get less. Okay, water supplies are being utilized, being used up. A lot of our infrastructure, existing reservoirs, we have some infill, silt buildup and things like that. So how are we going to meet, again, this increased demand? Take a look at the regional water planning process. And this is how we do it. It's a bottoms-up approach to the planning. We have 16 regional water planning groups. Those regional water that come together, they're made up of 12 stakeholders, or 12 special interest stakeholder groups. Okay, many of them have 20+ members on their planning board. Those regional water plans are revised every 5 years and then combined into the state water plan. We take a look at water use by category: municipal, irrigation, livestock, mining, manufacturing, steam and electronic. And then again, taking a look at the projected demands for each of those water user groups and how those demands are going to be best be met. Again, how many Texans are there going to be? How much water is going to be needed? How much water are we going to have? Are we going to have enough? What can we do to get more? And of course, how much is it going to cost? That's always, everything comes with a cost. As we take a look at future resources and where water is going to come from, most of it, the majority of it, surface water, followed by demand management. And this is where conservation comes in. Followed by reuse, increased use of groundwater, and we have use of seawater and aquifer storage and recovery. Break down those share of the strategies by type. And again, this is for 2070. Okay, surface water, followed by conservation in the agricultural water use sector, followed by municipal conservation, new major reservoirs. Again, very expensive proposition there. Indirect reuse, groundwater, other direct reuse. You can see aquifer, desalinization, drought management, et cetera, as we go down. As I mentioned, the cost of implementing the state water plan estimated to be $80 billion. Okay, we figure we can meet probably about $47 billion of that from programs that the state has available through our financial programs. Again, a lot of that may be self-funded projects and such like that. But again, a lot of money that's involved here. There's also a cost if we don't implement the plan. Okay, lost income, lost jobs. Again, a very big factor when we take a look at the state and its economic well-being. So I want to take a little closer look at conservation. Active conservation makes up about 29%. Okay, of the strategy's volume by 2070, okay, municipal and agricultural, industrial, okay. Over half of the 3,000 water user groups have recommended conservation in some form or fashion to meet future needs. That also has a cost with it. We're looking at about just over $7 billion in capital costs. This could be water loss programs, replacement of pipes and such like that, different types of infrastructure. And I'm saying active conservation here. That's actually proactive programs that a water supplier is going to undertake. Passive conservation, which we see water savings because of current standards in plumbing fixtures, let's say, high performance toilets, 1.6, you can even go to 1.2, faucets, shower heads, clothes washers. That's all built into our demand projections because that's going to happen no matter what. Okay, people, those are what's available, that's what's installed. Okay, everything else may take a habit change or something else to go a little bit further with it. So again, we have active and passive conservation. So exactly what is conservation? Okay, program strategies or activities to help ensure water use efficiency, reduce the consumption, increase efficiency, reduce the loss or waste, and increase reuse of water. Also, conservation is one of the first water management strategies that need to be considered by the regional water planning group when they're looking about how to best meet a future need. So that's pretty major there. We collect a lot of data in our agency. Okay, we have water use surveys, we have water loss audits, we have water conservation plans, annual conservation reports. Kind of gives you an idea of how many entities in the state have to do what. We collect that data, and that's the information that's shared back to the regional water planning groups, okay, for their taking a look again on what the demands are going to be and how those demands might be met. Part of this reporting requirement, if any of you work directly with utility, is we now have an online reporting application, so it makes it a little easier. As you start with the water use survey, the appropriate data then is auto-populated into the water loss audit, into your conservation plan and annual report. So we're having a lot better data collection and consistency. When you take a look at our reports, this is kind of reminds me of that game Mousetrap. You know, where do you start? Where do you end? Everything's interconnected. But excuse me. But it's the flow of data that's most important. You know, water conservation plans are being used by the regional water planning groups in their process, and also the regional water plans are being used by local entities when they're taking a look and developing their water conservation plan. Ultimately, a lot of these projects come to us for financial assistance. So the data that we give the regional water planning groups, it's demand and population estimates, agricultural irrigation water use estimates, water loss data, targets and goals from conservation plans, what best management practices are being implemented, and also the copies of each entity's water conservation plans are to be provided to the regional water planning group. So what resources? We have monies available for planning for water and wastewater flood mitigation projects. We provide a lot of workshops and outreach, kind of similar to today. People who submit a water loss audit are required to do training. We workshops on conservation planning and reporting, how to develop a conservation plan, how to implement a conservation plan. One of the bigger questions is, how do I know if my plans be effective? What are my water savings? And so a lot of education on that too, and how you can take a look at that. We also work closely with the Water Conservation Advisory Council in policy and legislative recommendations and best management practices. So we're all familiar with a hydrological cycle. So when we take a look, and this is back to a lot of the graphs that Nelun was showing, it's really the hydrological cycle, okay? We got rain, everything's good, life is good. Hopefully it's not too much rain and not flooding, but you know, normal, whatever normal conditions are, okay? So we kind of get apathetic, you know, we don't really, our yard looks good, you know, the parks look good, Lake Travis, I got enough water for my boat, you know, that's all cool. Okay, then it starts getting a little hot, a little dry. This year we had a lot, seems to me anyway, we had a lot more wind in the past, so it was a double whammy. You know, everything was drying out faster, so we get drought. Oh, wait a minute, what should we be doing here? You know, I'm not quite sure, but okay. And then it continues a little longer, and we're, you know, wait a minute, this is serious stuff going on. You know, I can only water once a week. What's that about? You know, and And then, okay, so yeah, the lake's down, boat ramps are closed. What are we doing now? Yeah, panic. And then it rains and life is good again, right? Well, not really, okay, because we know it's going to happen again. And that's really the difference between when we talk conservation and we talk drought. Conservation is long-term, it's efficient use of water. Drought is really mitigation, that you're responding to hopefully a short-term situation. And you might have to take some, at times, severe steps to reduce use. But again, the more efficient we can be now with good times, okay, we can help extend the life of our supplies a little bit longer before they feel, and we feel, the impacts of drought. So what can we do? What can you do? Okay, become familiar with the water planning process. I think that's important. You know, attend some meetings or whatever if you can. Think about the water that you're using. Every time you turn on the faucet or turn on the hose, how much water is being used? How much do you really need? You know, it's always easy to turn that faucet off as it was to turn it on. Landscape watering, seasonal use. You know, right now I can only water, you know, most of the summer it was twice a week. Now it's once a week. Okay, I was watering 20 minutes my 2 days. Okay, each system on my sprinkler. Instead of 20 minutes now, I'm probably better off running 30 minutes once a week. That water is going to get down in the ground deeper. The roots are going to be better. It's not as much of that water staying closer to the surface and going to dry out as fast. I'm being more efficient with the use of that water. Plus, I'm using a little bit less water also. You know, again, talk about plant material. Right now, it's probably not, well, coming in the fall is probably a good time. During the middle of the drought, it's not the time to put in new plant material, even though it's water saving because it still needs water to get established. Okay, but now for the fall, put you a little bit better place for next year. Rainwater harvesting. A lot of people are getting really interested in rainwater harvesting. Some people are totally dependent out in the hill country on it, and for all their water use. You know, for most urban dwellers, suburban, you know, a 50-gallon tank is good. It will help us water some of our potted plants, but it's really not going to be a lot to make a big difference in our water use. But again, it's part of that awareness and some things that we can do. I talked about the state water plan. Here's a link, a really cool tool, kind of like the ones that Nelun were talking about. We have an interactive state water plan dashboard that you can take a look at water demands by region and by water user group and by decade. And it's going to give you, you can get in there and play with all sorts of numbers. So really good. And that information more about water conservation. So I think we might have a little bit of time if there's any questions. And thank you very much for the opportunity today. Any questions?
One of your slides showed $80 billion.
Yes.
Water plants, now, so 70 population expected double 50 billion. At $80 billion, was that a fewer fish total? Was that $80 billion? 70? How did y'all get to that?
I believe that's a cumulative. Okay. Yeah. So it's over time, but still a lot of money. Yeah. Sure.
You'll see effects to aquifer storage from today's conservation efforts, like limiting irrigation and stuff like that. You'll see the impact of storage.
Okay, the question was, we see any impact to aquifer storage because of conservation efforts in terms of landscape watering or limitations and things like that? A lot of times it depends. There's different types of aquifers in the state. Some of them are more fluid, like San Antonio's. A lot of it is kind of captured water, but you can see, you know, a lot of times you can see increase when demands go down. Okay, that increase. A lot of that's even being seen because of utilities can see a lower level of need for production of what they have to produce overnight. that's where a lot of utilities get into some problems during drought, is they can't keep up with demand and they're not ever able to like refill the storage tanks. And so that's kind of, in a sense, kind of be representative of probably what's going on in the aquifer as well to a certain extent. Yes, sir. Okay, the question is, why isn't there more interest in desalination? I think we're going to continue to see interest in desalination as well as interest in reuse. You saw reuse is pretty far down, as well as desalination on the strategies, but those are higher percentages than we've seen in previous plans also. A lot of desalination is because it's expensive, okay? And depending upon where you're doing it, you have a problem of brine well, what to do with brine, okay? The leftover from desalination. So, but I think we're going to see that. You're right. We're going to see an increase in interest in that. You know, there's some talk about, you know, getting some the utilities along the coast that participate in more desalination than perhaps they are now or have in the past. And then water that they're using for surface water, you know, being able to use that upstream, you know, instead of having to go downstream to meet their needs as well. So, but I think those are two areas we're going to see continued increase in. Yes, sir.
A lot of us here in the room think their water out of Lake Travis. I just want to hear from an expert. When it rains, where's the most beneficial area that it's going to rain to fill Lake Travis? Where the Lake Buchanan, okay, but I just want to hear it from.
Yeah, Nelun. I think the further upstream you go, the better. Okay, I mean, you know, because it's going to have to collect and make its way down, and so, you know, rain here doesn't necessarily help the lake supplies or the water supplies. We need it upstream a little bit more, but also in terms of drought, we need a certain amount for that water to percolate. A lot of it's going to run off, but some of it's going to percolate, and so it's all kind of combined together too. It needs the right amount of rainfall, the right amount of precipitation also. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John and Nelun. I think we're ready to close out. Paul? First meeting as president.
First time, all right, be gentle. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. First meeting of the fiscal 23 calendar year. Please come back and see us. We'll be here again October 18th. If you're interested in getting more involved, we have tons and tons of opportunities helping manage our institutes, YMF, EWRI, SEI, as well as planning all sorts of stuff for the larger branch, government affairs, community outreach, our upcoming continuing ed seminar class day, whatever we call that. So tons of opportunities to get involved. We'd love to get additional support from those of you in the room or those of you watching online. That said, Griselda, do we have a head count for today?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. And I guess that concludes today's meeting. We are adjourned.